What's going on, everyone? Welcome to DFG Chats here at Drama Free Gaming. This is End Time with you. And of course, it is what it says, and it says what it is. It wouldn't be Drama Free Gaming without that tag. Hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to be chatting about a couple of things. Primarily, I want to chat about why I think Nintendo, yes, Nintendo is kind of looming in the shadows. A lot of rumors that are occurring right now regarding the Switch 2 and when the machine is going to drop and what are the specs and other things, other speculations. But Nintendo right now is kind of like looming in the background and releasing their final games, we believe, for the Switch, for the current Switch platform that they have before announcing the Switch 2. And I'm interested here in Nintendo now more than ever because I have a couple of takes on how I believe that Nintendo is poised to make a killing. In other words, to be very profitable in their next generation release, their next generation platform. And I'm going to give you that take here in a few. But first, let me share with you this excitement that I haven't felt in quite some time regarding the anticipation of an IP, a game that is getting a release come March 1st, I believe. It's a sequel to a game that I never heard of until recently. That game is Dragon's Dogma. And some of you who are listening to this are saying to yourself, "Oh, I've played that game. That was on the Xbox 360 and I had a blast. That's an amazing game. Maybe for some of you, it's your all-time favorite RPG. I don't know. Anyways, it wasn't until recently that I came across Dragon's Dogma, and it caught my attention because it has a couple of elements in it, and you've heard this before. Someone describing it as a Souls-like slash Monster Hunter slash Skyrim type game. And two of those I've experienced. I've experienced Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter World was my entry into the Monster Hunter franchise. I've played World. I've played Iceborne. I went on to play Rise. And I am highly anticipating Monster Hunter Wilds. I have a take on that as well that I would like to record at another time and share with you. So yeah, and Monster Hunter, the franchise, the IP, is hands down my favorite IP. Hands down. I'm a big Division fan, but I didn't care too much for the Division 2 and all the not so much the changes, but the direction that it went in. I'm still a Division 1 fan, and I played that game into the ground. I pretty much did everything in that game along with my friends back in the days. So yeah. So aside from Division 1, my favorite IP is Monster Hunter. And I came across Dragon's Dogma and was totally caught off guard. Because one, I never heard of it. I didn't know this game existed. And then when I found out it was a Capcom game, that sparked my interest even more. And I connected the dots real quick. I saw in the gameplay mechanic that you can actually fight these huge creatures and you can mount them. And in the reviews that I was hearing and watching on YouTube, they were old reviews, of course. The game's that first one has been out, I believe, more than 10 years or more, maybe. But as I was hearing people reviewing the game and talking about how they were so amazed that they could mount creatures, to me, it wasn't anything revolutionary or new. And then I remembered, well, this game is old. And maybe back then this wasn't a mechanic that was found in any games, including Monster Hunter. If any of you guys have played any of the older Monster Hunter IPs, let me know in the comments if it was a thing that you can actually mount the monsters that you were hunting. I experienced the mounting with the clutch claw in Monster Hunter World and Iceborne, and in Rise, you can also mount. So, yeah, for me, it wasn't a revolutionary thing, but I can see how in a game like Dragon's Dogma back in the days, the original game, it was something revolutionary. It being an RPG again took me by surprise, because for a moment here, I thought that the game was one of those games that you had to play partied up and online. I'm beginning to understand now that that's not the case, that you actually create these NPC characters called pawns and you can hire them out. I don't know how this mechanic works, or how these pawns are hired on, or where they appear from. But that excites me as well, because it's not a game that I have to play and be connected to some sort of server. At least that's what I understand. And so I've been talking here recently about my feelings as to live service games, and I'm not knocking them. I make that clear. But how it saddens me that once a server is down, then I can't play that game anymore. And I speak about this because I think about games and how they are now. And yeah, I know it's a reality, and I don't think we're going back, but it's refreshing to know that I can have this experience in this game called Dragon's Dogma, and in other games, of course, but in this game. And it seems like it's going to have a high roof for replayability, where I can go through it with a character and then go through it with another character and maybe mix and match these NPC pawns that are there to kind of fill your group, and you're not beholden to running around with a full party. I don't know how many members could run around with you, like you and these other NPCs. But yeah, there's just a lot that I'm looking forward to in playing this game, Dragon's Dogma. And I'm not talking about playing Dragon's Dogma 2. I know that this game is coming now, I believe March 1st, as I said here a moment ago. I'm looking forward to playing the first one. And I actually have it coming in the mail on its way, because I was just completely put into a state of mind where I was like, I gotta play this game. And again, I haven't been this excited to play a game. So I'll be playing it on my PlayStation 5. I picked up the PlayStation 4 Dragon's Dogma. I believe it's called Arisen or something to that effect. Anyways, it's the remade or remastered. I believe remastered is the correct word. But it's gonna run nice on my PlayStation 5 at 1080, and hopefully, I believe is a 30 frames per second. Anyways, it's gonna run smoother, it's gonna run nicer, but it's gonna be my first experience. So look forward to that. If you like, I will be sharing my thoughts when I play it and experience it, and as a first time player. And if you're interested, well, tune in. I'm actually going to share my screen um, in a moment here, just to play a little bit of an IGN review on Dragon's Dogma, just to share with you guys here. If you haven't seen this game, and I'm sure you have, I'm the one that's late to the party. Let's see a little bit of this review. It's 5 minutes, so I'll probably comment on it, and then we'll move on to talk about my take on Nintendo and the future. Let's go.
Capcom's fantasy RPG Dragon's Dogma has been a long time coming, and it's looked more and more interesting every time we've seen it, boasting robust, action-focused gameplay and an innovative pawn system that lets you enlist avatars created by other players to fight alongside you. There are shades of Dark Souls in its real-time action combat, and Shadow of the Colossus in its large-scale battles. And though it never comes close to either of those two outstanding games, it offers a lot of innovative ideas and a real sense of adventure.
I'm just blown away by the scale of the enemies, the Souls-like comparison, the Monster Hunter
Dragon's Dogma centers
style.
on the rebirth of an ancient dragon who runs around ravaging the land.
I'm definitely in.
You can customize your avatar down to the tiniest, most insignificant detail. This is me. I look a bit weird, but everyone in Dragon's Dogma looks a bit weird. After you unwisely try to take it down with a rusty sword, the dragon plucks out your heart and eats it. Afterwards, you're reborn as the Arisen and set out to get your heart back. Technical issues are a problem from the start, especially on 360. The PlayStation 3 version runs a lot better. There's pop-in and stutter in busy fights, and sometimes you'll run up to a shop or a quest giver marked on your map and have to wait a good few seconds before they actually appear.
So that's the reason why I decided to play it on my PlayStation 5 and pick up the PlayStation 4
After the exciting
remake,
start, the story,
because
characters,
supposedly
and
they
quests are
fixed all
about as
these
interesting
bugs.
as porridge. And everyone talks in this faux oldie-worldy way that gets really irritating.
Ah, Arisen, sir. I find myself in a situation most dire.
So this, I know this is an old review, and she just made that comment that, you know, everyone speaks in this old fogey way, but it matches the setting. It doesn't bother me, right? It would bother me if the text or the conversation that the NPCs were having in this sort of realm or this time period or whatever, if it was modern day language, it would be completely out of place. So I think that that's uncalled for. But anyways, that's just a little 2 cents that I'm throwing in there.
The capital city is strangely deserted and there's not much life anywhere in the towns. All the interesting stuff is to be found in the great outdoors, where goblins and ogres hunker in winding mountain passages and griffins nest on cliff tops. Outside, Dragon's Dogma can look gorgeous, with mist-draped scenery that stretches far into the distance.
I love the being able to go outside and looking into the distance, and that griffin that you saw just flying in the sky, the anticipation, right, of getting into that brawl, into that fight, and not knowing what to expect. That's awesome. That it gives me those Dungeons and Dragon vibes. And I play Dungeons and Dragons with you know, pencil and graph paper. You know, and we had a dungeon master, and I did some DMing back in the days as well. And it was all imagination. But if my imagination was to be put on display, it would be the way I'm seeing it right here in Dragon's Dogma. Just looking at it, at a town, looking at the landscape, looking out into the horizon, anticipating fights with these creatures that are a constant threat. Another thought that's just, you know, sidebar. I don't know what's up with this music in this review. Like, it really didn't need it, but anyways.
Distance.
Look at that, that's dope. He's like in the mouth of that like serpent
to make up
thing.
For the dull quests and soporific fiction, Dragon's Dogma has
So he's,
excellent
like,
combat.
hanging
You
on
start off
to
by
the
picking a class
griffin.
from fighter, ranger, and mage, but after a few hours you can start switching between them and developing hybrid classes, becoming a magic archer or an assassin.
That's awesome.
Whenever
I
the
can't
enemies
wait.
start to get boring, you can switch up your skill set and weapons to keep things fresh. When you meet a really big foe, you can climb up its body and drive your sword right into its fleshy bits. The really big fights reward you with a massive sense of achievement and satisfaction. Just as important as your own skills are those of your companions, your pawns. Dragon's Dogma gives you one permanent partner that you can customize and develop to your liking, and two others that you can hire from the Rift, which is a
Okay.
kind of netherworld where other players' pawns gather. You can hire anyone you want whenever you want, and take advantage of their battle skills and knowledge. If you're stuck on a quest, hiring a pawn who's already done it can really help out.
Does this please you, Arisen?
So that's the thing, right? That place called the Rift. See, so I'm hearing about that now. I probably heard about it before, but I'm understanding now that maybe that's the place, right, where if you're connected online somehow, that those other pawns will be accessible or available to you within your game. I guess that's how it works. Aside from you creating your own, and that pawn not only being customizable to your liking, but also gaining the experience that it's going to gain by venturing with you. So that's dope. That's cool. And I noticed also that there are two separate leveling systems because you're not fixed to choosing a class and then you have to stay with that class. So you're kind of gaining experience and leveling up, but you're also leveling up the different classes. So I can start off as, you know, a I don't know, a fighter, let's say, and then switch up and be a magician, right? A sorcerer of some type. And then as it was saying, the hybrid builds. So the replayability of this game is just super impressive. And I can't wait. I can't wait. Let's go on.
If you're not online, the game provides some standard pawns to choose from, but playing with other players' creations feels more personal, like picking a party for an MMO raid, except with NPCs.
Wait, so she just said if you're not online, you can pick from some that are already preset. So that's great. That's great. I mean, I'm sure there's advantages because I am aware that the pawns that others have ventured with and you take onto your party, if you go on a quest and that pawn has had that experience, they'll give you like hints or direction or even warnings about traps or creatures or a bunch of stuff. But yeah, we're gonna see how that works out when I do my first play of the game.
Tactics are really, really important because this is a difficult game. Health doesn't regenerate, so the longer you're outdoors for, the more dangerous it gets. The keys to success are good equipment and preparation. Having the right party and the right tools is the difference between dying in a cave somewhere and coming back with spoils.
Good equipment and preparation and having the correct party, right? So it involves strategy, it involves you preparing, it involves you thinking risk and reward, and that is the mark in my experience in playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. You had to prepare your character and your party and balance each other out. There had to be a fighter, there had to be a sorcerer, there had to be a healer, there had to be a hybrid of the both. Could have been like a thief slash archerer, and so we balanced each other out, and I think that is so dope. And I know it's not exclusive to this game, but that's what makes this game appealing to someone like me. It's the same DNA that Monster Hunter has, where you jump into Monster Hunter and it doesn't explain anything to you, but you start to figure out that you have to go and forage and collect items, and then you have to craft, and then you have to sell some of those things and trade some of those other things to acquire other items, and then prepare yourself for a hunt. And depending on what monster you're hunting, you have to take into consideration the climate. You have to take into consideration the elemental factor of that creature, if it has a specific attack. On and on and on and on it goes. And it's part of that awesome game loop. It's a thinking game. It's not just a hack and slash. It's not just a, I'm going to increase my level to 100 and now I'm just going to steamroll everything. It's a thinking game. It's completely strategic. I'll talk about more of that about other games in the future, but yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I haven't played it yet, and I'm loving it already.
Where Dragon's Dogma really succeeds is in providing a sense of adventure. The challenging combat imbues things with a tangible feeling of danger. When night falls, you immediately start looking around for the nearest safe shelter. Not because you're told to, but because it's getting dark, and you know that bad, scary things stalk the world at night. When you're out on a long sortie into the wilderness, miles from anywhere, with just your pawns for company, it's an exhilarating feeling. Peril is everywhere, and you breathe a sigh of relief every single time you return safely to rest at an inn,
That's
even
awesome.
30 hours into the game.
Good work.
It's a strange game, Dragon's Dogma. It does some really brave and interesting things, but it also feels unfinished, with technical problems that spoil things from time to time. The combat, though, is one of the best real-time RPG fighting systems around, with flexibility and variety that carries the whole game. It deserves to be complemented by an absorbing fantasy world and an array of well-written quests and characters, but instead the quests get repetitive and the fiction is bland. Dragon's Dogma has the scale and challenge of a great RPG, but not the character or the polish.
So I'm leaving it right there. We see the score 7.5. The positives, innovative, fantastic combat, and then bland fiction and technically lacking. And you know, these scales, I couldn't care less for them, even though I take them into consideration. I'm not gonna lie, but it scoring it a 7.5. I heard somewhere that if you were gonna rate something from a 1 through 10, and you're not allowed to use 7, where would you land? Think about that. If you're gonna rate something from and use a scale of 1 through 10, but you're not allowed to use 7, because 7 is like one of those. 7 falls right there in between. It's better than good, but I don't want to say it's great. And on a scale that uses 1 through 10, anything that's scored a 6 is usually considered good. And anything that's rated an 8 or higher is great and amazing and perfect, right? So 7 is kind of a safe place. And that's interesting that it was rated a 7 back in the days, because of some technical things, right? It was innovative for its time. The combat was great. The sense of scale, the sense of danger and adventuring. Even the comment that was made 30 hours in, you still felt a sigh of relief when you and your party entered a town like a safe haven. I mean, that's awesome. That's what you want in a game like this, where you don't venture out into the nighttime and you don't just think, oh, I'm buff. My character's buff and I can take on anything. No, the nighttime actually presents danger. It actually presents an opportunity for you to get wiped out with your party. And that tension is constantly there. I feel that same tension when I play Monster Hunter, and that's why I love the IP. It doesn't matter how strong my character is, and mind you, I'm speaking as a Monster Hunter player, that I'm not looking to min-max my build and have a build that crushes everything because it's a broken set and whatnot, and that's what everyone's using. Like, no, I play games the way I play games. I'm not gonna say the way that you're supposed to. Some people break games and they like to exploit games and whatnot. I don't have an interest in doing that, and nor do I want to. Like, I don't have an interest. I don't want to. I just want to experience the game the way I want to experience the game. And that means experimenting, switching up builds, and not feel 100% confident that I can just steamroll everything. I can just tank everything. Don't know how I'm going to play in Dragon's Dogma, what character I'm going to wind up using the first time around. I usually play a support character. So I don't know. You guys who've played it, if you guys are listening to this and you've watched this so far, appreciate you tuning in here to Drama Free Gaming on YouTube.com. Yeah, tell me how you play, or you've played the game, or if you've gone through this game more than once, and what your go-to class is. I'd be interested to read and to see in the comments what people have started with and what hybrid classes they've evolved into. I know I'm gonna have a blast with this game, so I can't wait until we get to it. All right. So I just paused there a moment because I want to just make the switch, pun intended, to speak about Nintendo and their upcoming Switch 2. And I'm calling it that not because it's the official name, but because I have no other name and that's what everyone else is calling it, and why not? So Nintendo hit it out the ballpark with the Switch. And in the Switch, we found that they were successful in consolidating their portable mobile gaming, right? The 3DS, the DS, all those handhelds. They took that concept and the success of that, and they merged it with a home console. And hence, we were introduced to the Switch. I own a Nintendo Wii U, and I have a few games. It's behind me on my setup, on right behind me. You won't see it from here. Maybe one day I'll set it up, and and you guys can see it, and maybe I'll do some gameplay on it. I love my Wii U. I had a Wii before I had the Wii U, and like a lot of people, when the Wii U was announced, I went ahead and traded in my Wii and said to myself, okay, now we're moving on to the next, bigger, better system, and in the Wii U. And I didn't know, like a lot of people, that the peripherals, the controllers, were backwards compatible. I didn't know that you can play Wii games on the Wii U. So I wound up purchasing some of them again. And anyways, long story short, I don't believe that I had the Wii U for too long before I wound up moving on. Um, that's not to say again that I thought the system was terrible. I had a blast with the Wii. I had a blast with the Wii U. And again, I recently picked up another Wii U, excuse me. Going back to my decision that I wanted to own games and own physical media. So, what's my take on the Nintendo and the Switch 2? I don't think this is being talked about, but I'm going to give it my thoughts. I believe that Nintendo is poised for great success with their next console. And I believe it's due to their established IPs. And what I mean by that is, look at what they've done, not only on the Switch by porting over a ton of games, if not almost every game on the Wii U, but they've gone back into their vault and into their library of established IPs, and they have remastered and have re-released games on the Switch. And we've gone out and we've bought them. All of us who own a Switch, we all own Mario Kart 8. And we've bought the expansion pack, and we have all the tracks and all the characters and all that good stuff. And we were more than happy to make that purchase again. That game existed on the Wii U. That game existed on the Wii. But here we are on the Switch, and we repurchased it. It was not backwards compatible. Okay. But we didn't complain. And that's not the first, and it won't be the last time that Nintendo does that. Nintendo just recently released Mario versus Donkey Kong. That's a DS game. And from what I've seen in the reviews of it, it's a pretty game. It got revamped graphics. You know, it's been brought up to 1080, which is dock mode for the Switch, 720 handheld. I have the Switch OLED, and I play some of my games. I play both docked and on handheld, and they look great on that OLED screen. And when I have my Switch docked, it's docked and it's plugged into my LG OLED as well. So I can tell you by experience with OLED and playing on an OLED screen, whether that's docked or on the Switch OLED machine, that it makes everything just look that much better. If you haven't experienced that, you should check it out. Don't take just my word for it. Go check it out. Once you experience OLED, you won't go back. But anyways, Nintendo is going to make a lot of money, because I don't think that Nintendo is going to pull out of the physical media business anytime soon. Why should they? I mean, there's still an entire following and an entire generation of gamers like me that want physical media. Again, to be clear, I'm not knocking the convenience of game subscriptions like Game Pass and the cloud gaming that we have now and all of that. But the reality is that we, meaning everyone who games anywhere and everywhere, we just don't have the infrastructure. We don't all own or have access to fiber. That's just the reality. And so talking about or believing that we're going to be in an all digital state of gaming here in the next year or two, or maybe even 5 years, I don't think that's realistic. I believe that physical media is going to be harder to obtain, and therefore, because it's going to be harder to obtain on certain platforms that are desiring and moving towards all digital, the media that is going to be available or made available through some third party production, it's going to be pricey. And that's going to create a market where there are going to be a lot of people that are going to make a lot of money, because they're not going to charge you and I, the consumer, the just price, $60, $70 if it's a game on PlayStation 5 or on the Xbox platform for a physical copy. But they instead are going to consume, because it's not going to be the first party producers. It's not going to be Microsoft and their studios, nor is it going to be PlayStation and their studios who are going to produce and print these physical games. It's not going to be them. It's going to be third parties, and you're going to have people come in and be opportunists. And I'm not against this. I'm not bad mouthing capitalism, but they're going to swoop in. They're going to buy up the short supply, the minimal supply, the limited supply, and then they're going to turn around and they're going to post it out there for 2, 3, 4 times as much. I say that because that's what's happening now with physical copies of games on older game consoles in the retro game scene. So Nintendo does not, I believe, have any plans of going digital anytime soon. And I'm happy. I'm happy for that. I'm really happy in a kind of a selfish way, because it means that Nintendo is not going to give us a next gen console that's going to be based on some astronomical power, and they're not going to give us that narrative of this is the latest and greatest and most powerful processing CPU, GPU, etc., etc. Rather, they're going to give us a console, and they're going to give us games, and they're going to give us, for the most part, some great quality, great experience in the games that they put out. And I'm excited about that. I've made comments here before, and think about this with me for a moment and consider this. If the next Switch 2, from what I'm hearing, has the capacity of a, let's say, a PlayStation 4 Pro, let's say that, right? PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro. If it has that capacity, if it's running at, if it gives me a handheld experience at 1080, which, by the way, the Steam Deck, which I love, and the Steam Deck, again, would not be around if it were not for Nintendo being innovative and leading the way. And Nintendo seems to always lead the way when it comes to innovating. And that's why Nintendo is still here and some other console makers are not. Sega. I'm sorry, I love Sega, but Nintendo has led the charge, and they've proven it time and again. They've had their falls, their slips, they in people's estimations, that certain consoles were trash and garbage and didn't, and all that could be true if you're looking only at numbers and at sales, but the innovation has always been there. And Nintendo has, for a while, for a long time, has treaded their own path. They haven't followed after the masses. And I am glad, to my understanding at least, that they don't have any plans to go all digital. I would even argue the fact that they don't have the infrastructure. I mean, you can't even chat on games unless you have a third party app to do that. And, you don't have that, and forget it. I mean, it's fine. I don't need it. As a matter of fact, I don't need it. I don't need it on a Nintendo platform. If they figure it out, that'd be great. Yeah. But Nintendo, stay the course. Stay the course. And I'll say this, in addition to them being poised to make a lot of money because they're going to remain with physical media, don't get too greedy. And I know it's about making that money, but don't get too greedy. Like, for instance, in my opinion, again, this Mario versus Donkey Kong game, you put a fresh coat of paint on it, it seems, or it appears to be, a 1-to-1 copy of the original game on the DS, I believe. I'm not too sure which DS it was. But you're charging $50 for that game. No, I'm not going to pay $50 for a puzzle game. I'm not going to do that. And that's not knocking the genre. It's just the type of game that it is. It does not, in my estimation, merit a $50 price tag. You might think that it does, and the reason why it's $50 and they can get away with it is because it's Mario. Slap Mario on anything and the price is going to go up just because the Mario character is there, is present, is in the game, or even if it was just on the box art. That's what you're paying for. You know, it's like when you go and you purchase a certain brand of sneakers, and I'm not gonna name any, but there's no way, no how that I'm going to pay $200, $300, $400, $500 for a pair of sneakers that I'm gonna put on my feet. And even if I wasn't gonna wear them and put them on a shelf or keep them in their box or whatever, ain't no way. There's no way. Just because they have someone's name on it. No, that's not me. It wasn't me back in the days. And it's not me today. But more power to you if you are that consumer. Just be mindful and be wary, because again, a limit in supplies creates a demand. And there is a demand for physical media. There still is a demand. I just walked into Best Buys today and went over to the video game / movie section. It was sad. It was sad. There was like one shelf of movies not even displayed. They were just set up on the shelves like the books you see back here. They were just all mixed and matched, and that whole section has been eliminated. I went over to the Xbox section, and all you saw was the digital cards you can buy for the Microsoft points, and some of them had different icons on it from different IPs like Halo, and one of them was from Ubisoft, the new Prince of Persia game that just dropped. But the media, the physical media, was very slim pickings. And the same thing with the PlayStation, very slim pickings. So Nintendo, and I went over to the Nintendo section was stacked. It was stacked with all of its games on display. And I just said to myself, this is a good thing. It's a good thing that these games are still here. Physical copies are still here. And yeah, it's going to be interesting if Nintendo eventually goes down the path of digital. I don't know. I just can't see a future with Nintendo going all digital, especially since their history has shown that they just been, I don't know, maybe late to the game and adopting certain types of media. They were putting out cartridge while others were putting out CDs. Anyways, I don't pretend to be on some board or have some insider information, but that's my take. That Nintendo is going to make a killing because they're going to have actual games on actual cartridges, and those cartridges are going to have the actual game on them. Not like the CDs that we have now that we put into our consoles for us console gamers, and we're downloading the game. All we have is a key that accesses somewhere in the cloud a game, or on a server a game that we get to download onto our system. And even still, once you download it, in some cases, you can't play that game unless you have the disc. That I realized with my 360 game. Xbox 360 game that's backwards compatible on my Xbox Series X. I had the game download. I had the digital version of it, and then I actually got the physical copy of it. So I own the digital and I own the physical. And I tried an experiment. I said, okay, I'm going to erase the digital off my hard drive, and I'm going to install the game from my disk. And when I put the disk in and it installed the game and all that good stuff, I played the game, I ejected the disk, and then when I went back to play the game, I had forgot that I had taken the disk out, and I went and clicked on the game and it didn't start. It asked me for the disk. Go figure. I don't know how all of this works. I'm not going to sit here and give you a lesson or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. And so my take on Nintendo, I really do feel that they are poised to make a lot of money and to get a lot of goodwill, but don't be greedy. Don't be greedy. Continue making your physical copies. If you happen to have an opportunity to get other games on a more capable platform and gaming machine that you're going to release, and it has to be through the cloud, maybe a live service game or whatever it may be, go for it, because we're in this business, right, to make money. Businesses are in business to make money so that they can grow, so that they can reinvest back into their business, so that they can make more money, and the cycle repeats. There's nothing wrong with that. But Nintendo can cash in because they're going to keep physical media, and nostalgia is a real thing. That's why the retro gaming scene is still so vibrant. It's nostalgia. It's us gamers, us around my age, that still have fond memories of our Nintendos, our Super Nintendos, our Sega Master Systems, our Sega Genesis, Dreamcast, the Saturn, TurboGrafx 16, on and on it goes. We still want to capture that and relive that. And that's why all the hoopla for physical media and the outrage that everything's going digital. Hey, guess what? I'm going to be real now. I'm not going to live forever. I'm not. I hope that there are people and places, and I know that there are, that are preserving this history. But the era that I lived in, the era that saw gaming coming through its changes and evolution and all that, I'm glad that I experienced that and I lived that. But we're here and it's now, and it's going to evolve. And if that means that it's going to go all digital, I shouldn't be broken up about it. I'm going to experience my gaming the way that I want to experience it. And I choose to continue owning my media moving forward. And if I want to play something and it's only digital, like I said here before, and I'm going to say it again, I'll play it on PC. I won't own anything, but I'm okay with it. I won't own that game, and probably that game is Monster Hunter Wilds, which is dependent on being on a server. I will buy that and play that on PC. And that's just the way that I'm going about it. If given the opportunity to actually own the game and having the opportunity to play the game without a server, and it not dependent on being online in order for it to survive, to be functional, to be accessible, then I'll play it on a console. But that doesn't seem the way that things are going, and things are going to progress. And that's okay. That's okay. The next generation or the current generation that have never experienced owning a physical copy, they don't have a clue what we're talking about. And it's out of sight, out of mind. Their gaming is digital. Their music is digital. Their movies are digital. There's no interest in them having physical media. It doesn't make sense. So let's stop arguing. Let's stop bickering. Let's stop making these reactionary videos, crying like gaming is dying. Gaming is not dying. You and I are going to die. Gaming is continuing to evolve, and it is the biggest industry, to my understanding, the biggest entertainment industry right now in the world. Gaming has made more money than, and continues to make more money than, music and videos. It's huge and it's everywhere, and it's continuing to expand. So yeah, you and I will die, and our collections will die with it. Hopefully somebody will enjoy them or donate them to some sort of museum or whatever. But gaming is here to stay. All right, guys. I'm not gonna continue yapping, but that's my take on Nintendo. And yeah, I'm excited. I am excited to see what Nintendo is going to bring. I'm excited to see what Xbox and PlayStation are going to bring, but not more so than Nintendo, to be honest with you. And I don't favor one or the other. I have all of the systems. I have a PC that's more than capable of playing anything on it for years and years and years to come. So I don't have that problem. I'm blessed. But right now, I'm interested most in what Nintendo is going to do. And I don't know, maybe you agree with me. Maybe you're thinking the same thing. Maybe you didn't think about Nintendo at all because all the attention has been shining on PlayStation and Microsoft and Xbox. But keep an eye out on Nintendo and what they are going to come up with next. All right, guys, that's my take. Hope you guys continue to tune in. If you enjoy this sort of content, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, leave me a comment. Be nice about it. Leave me a comment, either as to Dragon's Dogma. Have you played it? Have you experienced it? Are you a fan? Has this span of time, I believe 10 years, has it really been worth the wait and anticipating Dragon's Dogma 2? I hope it does well. Why? Because if it does well, we'll get the IP continuing to give us yet more games. And more games is always a good thing. All right, guys, be good, do good. And as always, keep your gaming and your life drama free. I'll catch you on the next one. Later.